You know, a number of years ago, some local radio station had a contest in which they wanted to let people come in and imitate Johnny Cash. And it was really, they got some of the local talent, and it was done sort of a joke and so on. And different people came in. I think it was some local truck company or auto thing was using it as a promotion. So different people came in, you know, it was kind of American Idol redneck version. And yet one night, this one guy would come in all the time and try to imitate Johnny Cash, and it was horrible. Well, when everything was all said and done, they gave him the prize, whatever it was, and afterwards they interviewed him, and someone said, "Why did you do this?" And in all seriousness, he said, "I worked hard because I wanted to do something to give my life some meaning. That's all." And that says something about the meaning of life. You know, I find that story so, it's sort of sad. I mean, here's some joke redneck radio station, and this guy comes in because he wanted to do something to give his life some meaning. But, you know, on the other hand, you said, why not? You know, I mean, whatever commonalities we share with amoebas and oysters and chickens and pigs or whatever, the one thing we do that all these other forms of life don't do, and that is we seek for the meaning of life. What are we here for? I mean, what are we but compacted bundles of flesh and bone that we carry around our own fecal matter just a meter or so from our brain, which is just a few kilos of carbon-based material crammed in our head, much closer in composition to a bucket of fish and chips than it is to a computer. So what does it mean? What can our lives mean in contrast to the infinity that surrounds it? You know, I remember there was a poem by the German poet Rilke, and I remember he talked about these women who were feeding some birds in a park, and I like the way he said it. He said it does them good to think that their saliva is getting out in the world, that the small birds will fly off with the taste of it in their mouths, even though moments later they will naturally forget it again. I mean, to me, that's so powerful. How strange that people have to try to find meaning for themselves, to find it in something beyond themselves, outside of ourselves. It's kind of ironic. We try to find meaning, but we've got to try to find it outside of ourselves. I mean, how strange. Of course, on the other hand, you know, considering how small we are, how limited we are, where else are we going to find meaning for our lives? And yet, you know, the irony of it all is, no matter how much we pour into ourselves, no matter how much we pour into ourselves, it's all destined to become oblivion, because according to the cosmologists, I mean, sooner or later, the universe is either going to break apart, it's going to burn out, it's going to collapse on itself. You know, we're like folks trying to build a ship at sea. Nothing's firmer than the shifting water beneath us ourselves. You know, more than a century ago, the German philosopher Nietzsche had a metaphor about a madman running through a marketplace with a lantern, and he was yelling about, how are we able to drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the horizon? What do we do when we unchange the earth from the sun? Where are we moving now? Away from all suns? Are we not plunging continually backward, sideward, forward in all directions? Is there any up or down left? Are we not straying as infinite beings through an infinite, are we not straying through an infinite nothingness? It's pretty heavy, straying through an infinite nothingness. And I think that catches the essence of a world where we don't know where we are, why we're here. We don't know how we got here. We don't know the purposes of our lives. How are we to find meaning if we build our meaning upon nothing? We're told we're nothing. We were created by chance. So how do we find meaning? How do we find purpose? I mean, we're here. We exist. We have a sense of the universe, we have a sense of eternity, and yet we're these little packets of flesh. There's a little bit of carbon up here in our mind that we know is ultimately one day going to die. How do you find meaning in that? You see, can't you see, this is where modern science, for all the good that has done, this is where it has led us. We're pointless, we're meaningless and purposeless beings because nothing intended to create us. And so whatever meaning and purpose we purport to find for our lives, they're illusions. They're games we play telling ourselves we really matter when in reality we really, really don't matter. And no matter what we do, it's not important even if we tell ourselves it is. So we can go out, we can imitate Johnny Cash and win a prize, or we could spit on some bread and let birds eat our saliva, and think we're doing something, or we could feed the hungry. In the end, what does it mean if in 100 years or in 10,000 years, any memory of us, any artifact of our existence, if it's all gone, what do we mean? What can we mean? What can we mean in a world like that? See, the thing, though, is not everybody has accepted these dismal conclusions about us, because not everybody has accepted these a priori presuppositions upon which these conclusions rest. I mean, not everybody's accepted the idea that the universe is here by chance, that the universe was created out of no conscious force, that the universe is, one scientist once said, the universe is just one of those things that happens to be. Not everybody has accepted that, because to think that all that we see, all this is without purpose, is without meaning, it's without intention, well, I'm sorry, folks, but that just doesn't seem sensible. It just doesn't seem reasonable, and there's just something in my heart which says, no. Come on, you got to do better than that. I like what one British writer wrote named Michael Frayn. He said, if the theory of the Big Bang is correct and the universe had a beginning, then there does seem to be a rather extensive state of affairs that has come into being without any precedents at all to account for it. And I like that, because he's saying this whole thing happened with no real reason to explain it. See, I think that's why then millions around the world, number one, just out of pure logic and reason alone, don't accept this atheistic, secularistic, godless, pure chance, meaningless view of creation. And as I said it before, I'll say it again, I'll say it a million times. It's not that logical. In fact, it's not logical at all. I mean, there's a whole argument, the cosmological argument on that I don't want to get into at this point. But that's why millions don't believe that. And that's why instead millions have found solace and comfort and answers in their biblical faith. First of all, besides the idea of a creator God, as the source of all existence, being a whole lot more logical and reasonable than there just being no God at all and this all came by chance, it also is a very good way of helping us understand and get a meaning and purpose for our lives. See, because it posits no purpose or formation for our lives, science can't give us any. Just can't give us any. Nothing created us here. Nothing gave us any purpose. Nothing gave us any intention. Anything we try to give it to is a joke, because ultimately it's an illusion, because it's all going to fade. That is, if you accept that position. Yes, we sense there are things in our lives that just science can't answer. Christians don't claim to have all the reasons or that the Bible gives them all. They claim only that there are answers out there that science can't teach. A formula or a law of physics can't explain good and evil, right and wrong, joy and love, or happiness, the things that matter, any more than a course on physiology or the physiology of the vas deferens or the ovaries could explain the mystery and the joy of sex. There's got to be more. We feel more. We're not sure what it is or where it is or how and why. Only that in feeding birds or feeding the hungry or in earning millions, we haven't reached it yet. It's close, it's there, we could feel it, we could sense it. It's there, but we just haven't quite been able to grasp it.